Welcome to the video podcast of Product Manager Thought Collectives. Today is a little different because it's the first time we're doing an in-person conversation. And I have here Loke joining me, who's currently the head of payments growth in North America at Adyen. And then previously, Loke had almost like an 18-year-long career at PayPal. You started as a software engineer, and then eventually you end to be the product leader in the alternative payment method of that organization. So the first question is like, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, first I always start with my name because that's kind of interesting. So my name is Lolke Belsma in Dutch, or Loke Belsma as I sometimes call it out in English, just to make it like a little bit easier. And then when I talk like what I'm doing, the title is one thing. It's better to explain what I'm doing. So I lead product and partnerships for North America on the payment side for Adyen. With a focus on alternatives and banks.
Okay, so there are some similarities between what you were working on versus what you were trying. Okay, awesome. Yeah. The second question, you kind of got into this a little bit, like what is your path into product management?
Yeah, well, I have to thank PayPal for that. And as you just mentioned, there's an 18-year journey there. Not uncommon, like people that go through a long journey, that they change path and see passions kind of like in different things. Halfway in my career at PayPal, I was leading an engineering organization. Actually, it was in the mobile space and mobile apps and a whole bunch of other things related to mobile. And I started to get more and more interested in why we're doing these things instead of like how. That's kind of how I would kind of differentiate like the key in one word. What is the difference between engineering and product? And I had a very collaborative our product kind of counterpart, and we did many loops around like the campus at like PayPal in San Jose, talking about kind of why we're doing like certain things and so on. And there was a big organizational change where we went from a model where there's a CPO with like the product org and a CTO with engineering org into like more of this general manager type of model. And the merchant organization was kind of like one of the first to model that. And so my then manager became like the head of PayPal. We call that checkout, but like the overall kind of merchant experience. And I told him like, hey, my next career focus, if I could get involved in product as well, that would be great.
Okay.
Now my counterpart left, and I basically took on his role. For a while, I would run both product and engineering, which was awesome, to be honest, because then you're really in full control of building something. Yeah. This is also when I transitioned into the alternative space. I was leading something else. We had to shut that down for business reasons. Moved over and basically started something completely new from scratch, which was awesome to see that whole kind of experience. And over time became more and more product focused. And then by the time I had left PayPal, I was leading product only.
So you were seeking that general manager role, and then also it kind of naturally happened.
Yeah, it all naturally happened. I think if you look at the FinTech space and some of our products that we're dealing with are very technical in nature. I always easily said what do we sell? Well, we're selling APIs and SDKs to other parties that integrate to kind of do obviously payment services and so on. But there's a strong kind of technical element to it. Also, if you really want to understand how payments work. So I think helps to have that technical background. Yeah. It also helps when you're talking to the engineering counterparts on big block kind of architectural stuff. So therefore the transition from engineering into product, that was helpful. And then the other thing, since I started something that we didn't do in the company at all. So there was this whole kind of alternative space. There was no precedence on that front. You had to kind of navigate yourself in it. It wasn't hey, we already have something and you can stepping into that. So
Yeah. Actually, the reason I have you here is also we were kind of cross-functional partners.
Yep.
So I had almost 3 years at PayPal, and I still remember my very first meeting with you. Because at that time, you were already director of product and engineering of the alternative payment method space. And then I just joined PayPal as a new PM. And I remember we had a whiteboard and you were super technical. You were drawing the flow diagram, how things work. And then at that time, I was just thinking, wow, the director really knows things in and out. So I was impressed because usually people are in leadership. Some people are not super hands-on, but it totally makes sense now because you transitioned.
Yeah, well, you're naturally so another thing. And I also believe, and I think this is really works here, at Adyen as well, is that when you're in, even if you're in a leadership role, you need to be able to like deep dive in,
Right, that's true.
kind of like lead by example, and also know when to kind of like go out again, because you need to make sure like your team is like taking care of like of things in a proper way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not see myself like in something where I just don't like know like the big blocks. Like I don't need to know like all nitty-gritty details, and like I definitely don't know that like at all, and definitely not here, because there's still a lot to learn. I'm only here 6 months. Yeah, I think from a they call like that big block perspective, like I feel you need to be able to like talk about that. And that has really helped here, like in the transition and opening doors, so to speak, like as well. And that's if I look at the teams that I've built on the product side specifically, those were always things that I was like traits and skills that I was looking for, to make sure like you have that balance between you don't need to be super technical, but you need to have some technical acumen, like to be able to like be successful in this particular space. There's already other product spaces where like that's completely different. But we're talking specifically about this space.
Yeah. Talking about this space kind of naturally transition to our next question. So as a payments veteran from PayPal and now Adyen, what are some core domain skills for a payments product manager that you consider that's crucial for you, maybe for your team, or like anybody who is interested in learning more about being a payments PM?
Yeah, like also if you want to know something about payments, or like and then FinTech and kind of like on broad, like you need to understand like the basics of like money movements and so on. And that doesn't mean I need to know kind of like, how like very gritty details at Visa or like a bank kind of happen. But like again, going back to that big block, like you need to have like an understanding on that, because when you talk to customers, and that's the other like key thing, you need to have a keen like kind of like eye for talking to customers. And that's I think that's a generic skill across like product that you need to have. You need to be able to explain and also translate like the words that like customers are using back into kind of like the domain that you're in. And you have customers that are very, very detailed and know this stuff, and then there are others that just knock on your door and they just want to get paid, like they don't necessarily care about like all the details, and like you need to be able to navigate like through this. Now, interesting, like in my last few years at PayPal, and definitely here as well, we're dealing with a lot of enterprise merchants. These enterprise merchants are usually like what we call multi-PSP. So we have many of them are integrated with PayPal or Braintree, and as well as with Adyen, and then they like deal with how they can kind of balance and things out. Therefore, they are usually pretty well in the know. Whereas if you look at more small businesses and so on, like they're still kind of like a learning period. But like that goes back to the original question. I think you need to understand kind of like the ecosystem. And more generic traits, like you need to be able to like have like understand kind of your customer. And then obviously if you think about payments, that's usually multi-party. Like your customers can be, here at Adyen here we're talking about our customers are our merchants, because we don't offer a consumer-facing solution, like we're offering a merchant-facing solution. Well, if you had PayPal offers like a two-sided network where there's a consumer side and there's a merchant side. So like you also need to have like, there's a consumer acumen piece that you need to have as well as a merchant. Like, so those are abilities to kind of, And how do you do that? Well, obviously there's a lot like out there. There's also a lot of like changes. I literally start every morning by reading like a blog or like a posting from my fellow Dutchman, kind of like Marcel van Oosting, which is like, payments dot something, whatever, like it's properly called. But like, he basically a summary of every day, like of here are the FinTech events from the last like 24 hours, published on LinkedIn. And there's many others that you can look at. But like there you have a pretty good idea of kind of what's kind of happening globally, but also with some good deep dives into how do certain things can like work.
That's a good point. So basically, to summarize, you want to understand who the basic players and how the money movement works, and also have curiosity or kind of understand what your customers want. So that's a combination of skills. No, that's a good point, that you have kind of you have to keep refreshed with all this knowledge and acquisition news, like what happens in the FinTech world.
Well, obviously things change on a rapid basis. And I think if you already are a product manager, like in another kind of like domain, and you want to kind of come over, obviously a lot of like the basic skills are like very transferable. as well as if you're kind of like in, let's say, in engineering or in design or something else, and you want to transition into product, there is also, again, like some skills that you already have that are immediately applicable, and you can like build on like some things like around that. I would say like, obviously there's a whole laundry list of like things that you need to do, but I think like, that those goes back to like Product School 101. Product School 101 you can go to per se.
Right.
A couple of things that are like really key. You need to be able to prioritize, obviously, and base that on like all the inputs that you have. That's pretty challenging because like you obviously want to build like something big, nice and shiny, but usually you need to start small.
Yep. Yeah.
Like I use the car analogy. I can give you like a Chevy. You're asking for the Rolls Royce. The Rolls Royce will be there, but like in the beginning you just have cloth seating. We'll give you leather seating down the road.
Yeah.
I literally just told this like to a customer last week as an explanation of like how we're building a new solution. Kind of like open. It's like, hey, like it's coming, but we're going there.
Reminds me of a similar analogy. When you go from place A to place B, initially you walk and then you do a bike. And then eventually you go there using like to put the wheel together for a car. You don't just automatically build a car immediately. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like, I don't know, but like I think in our business they need a car right away. It's just they just need, like they don't need the most fancier car, but eventually they want that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question is one of my favorite questions. It's like, what does a typical day look like for you as a product leader in a global payments company? Because some days could be firefighting, some days you talk to customers, some days maybe you do recruiting. If you have to describe a typical day, that's what I'm curious about.
Like it's like obviously all of the above. Like so a typical day, like so as I mentioned, like I don't know, I'm in a North America role, but I work for a Dutch company. I'm obviously at the headquarters here in San Francisco, but that means usually my day starts with connecting with Amsterdam. There's a 9-hour time difference, which obviously makes it challenging. Now, luckily, I'm an early bird. But yeah, I'd like to go into the office. So I'm here 3 to 4 days a week. That means I usually walk in like, 7:30 in the morning and hop on whatever, kind of going on, like giving on regular cadences like calls. And we started the day today with kind of call it staff meeting with my peers in other regions. And so if you kind of take a step back, like, there's obviously, as a leader, like you have reports. So like obviously a day will have one-on-ones. I don't do one-on-ones on one day. I just have it spread kind of like across the whole week. So like I kind of have a little bit more balance because I'd like to also, there's day to day, there's going to be some change needed. And therefore my calendar needs to have openings that things kind of like happen. And I don't like to walk in and look at my calendar and saying, the only thing I'm doing is walking from meeting room to meeting room.
You want to have some open space.
I want open space.
Okay, I love that. Yeah.
And if I need to have specific time, I'll block that off. But I usually do that on the days I'm working from home, where I'm kind of, that's block of time I can kind of focus on whatever is needed. Connecting on kind of the big running projects, like I run a few status meetings with like the key kind of counterparts kind of in there. I'd like to meet customers, and we do that in multiple forums. So when I joined, I reached out to the commercial team that sits here in the building. This is mostly a commercial office. Lots of account managers here saying, okay, how can I get like in front of customers? I'm part of a couple of like big global accounts in their like regular kind of quarterly business reviews or the type of session. Then 2 days of this week is planning season, like 2020-25. So there's a lot of kind of still follow-up activity kind of going on there. Traveling to Chicago next week to sit down like with a part of the engineering team that is dotted like into like my organization, like and we're like working on finalizing what we're doing Q1/early Q2. We know what we want to do, but we need to like really set that down. So and then this is where my hands-on part is in there. When we're building something brand new or are ideating something brand new, I'd like to just be hands-on involved because that keeps your not just only high-level stuff that can be done like as in just whiteboard sessions, or we have a partner coming over like Wednesday here for a couple of hours, do a workshop to see like how can we partner together on a potential solution like into 2025. Make sure that I have time like to kind of do that. So that's kind of kind of like high level, kind of like roughly what the day is like. The good thing about the timing part, and like this is different like than my prior like with PayPal, but like this is a global company, but like as we're regionally organized, I predominantly look over like North America, and there's a connection like with Europe, but I don't have like any day-to-day responsibilities, let's say in APAC. I do have connections with people there, so I meet them on a kind of like regular basis, monthly, bi-weekly or so, in some form of kind of connect. But yeah, I don't have a big evening schedule kind of like either.
That's nice. But your day starts early. You said 7:30.
Yeah, but it means like, given also where I come from, like that my day starts early. Like I leave the house at 6 a.m. in the morning. And on the train coming in, I will be checking messages, replying to messages and so on, listening to podcasts or zoning off, whatever it is. But like,
Yeah. Yep. At least the Caltrain, it has Wi-Fi now. So help people a little bit when you want to do some work, get ready for your day. So it sounds like your day is kind of a split between one-on-ones, like meeting customers, and some quarterly annual planning, and also, set up strategies, like kind of even feature review, like product review.
And obviously there is then whatever happens.
Some open space,
And it was used twice today already, where there was like some urgent thing that needed attention early in the morning, and then like there was a big email thread that was going on. It's like, well, let's cut that email thread out. Let's hop on a call. If you look at Adyen has like what they call the formula, which are basically are a cultural statement, if you want to kind of call it out. Not unlike given like a combined history, like kind of what PayPal behaviors were. And we really live like according to like them. And so one of them is we don't hide behind emails. We pick up the phone.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, this is where, like we can continue to send emails, but like, no, let's hop on a quick call. Now that was like someone from Chicago and someone from New York and myself on a call. And obviously that meant like a quick Zoom meeting. But yeah, like that's
more efficient.
That weren't like the 15 minutes like right there. And that wasn't there this morning when I kind of like walked in, but like that's part of the game.
Yeah. So as the head of payments growth, do you travel a lot? So you mentioned you're going to Chicago next week? Okay. And then because you also you mentioned have your team.
Yeah. So I have a team here. I have some folks in Chicago. And obviously I've been in Amsterdam a handful of times as well, where there's headquarters. So I went from basically working from home for about 4 years, given COVID. And then at PayPal, there was no big reluctance to go back into the office, despite kind of attempts to do that, to a model where, we have a very office-like centric culture here.
Okay.
Across kind of all locations. So I actually truly enjoy coming in. I don't see anybody even feels like pressured that they have to come in, which you see someone like online about like, return to office policies or something like that. No, we also have a lot of amenities here. Like, there's daily catering. Yeah. You said when you walked in, there's like a coffee bar. That's true at every location, by the way. Like, like if you like walk into like in one of the Amsterdam offices, you'll see that as well. Travel associated with that. Yeah. So I've seen the inside of a plane a lot.
Okay, nice.
But I thank the family for the support on that.
Yeah.
Because it was really a change. But lovely kids are at an age where they are pretty well self-sustained. Like.
I like coming to the office as well. I think maybe not 5 days a week. That might be a little too much.
I don't do that either. Like I usually do 4, sometimes 3, but usually 4.
Yeah. I think it's especially helpful when your team is in the same office. You could do whiteboard or just like grab lunch or coffee with the team.
Yeah, and then the other thing, it's a nice separation between kind of like work and home.
Yeah.
And
wind down on the train.
Wind down and like like you can kind of like get your creative juices still kind of like going and so on. Whereas if you're at home, sometimes that separation is not necessarily there. But I've worked in both models, and it can adjust to kind of like anything that's there. But
yeah. All right, switching gears a little bit. So, what are some hobbies you have? I mean, we talked a lot about product management, talked about work. What are some hobbies if you have time for hobbies?
To be honest, like most of my hobbies are like on hold at the moment. I would say I have two hobbies that are very, very related. And so one is photography, and the other one is anything that's related to trains or model trains.
Okay.
And how I got into that is that like as a 13 or 14-year-old, I got a camera like for my birthday, and like I was interested in trains and started taking pictures of trains.
Started with
And
train. Okay.
I still take pictures of trains.
Nice.
Like I took pictures of trains yesterday. Like and so that's kind of like the photography kind of like element kind of like in there, and I over years switched to bird photography and other wildlife photography. Although I haven't done that in recent times, I just don't have the time and the family time and everything else associated like with that. And then that train stuff got really deep into like model trains. So I'm a big model train nerd, although I would say like a lot of that, I haven't done much on it. Now usually when we say the R's in a month, like that means like model train season is back. So I have some ideas and thoughts that I want to do over the winter, but yeah, that's kind of like
When you say model train, is it like a specialized train?
No, what I mean model trains is that like, like what typical people associate with toy trains, although it's definitely
very crafty.
It's definitely not a toy train at all, but like no, it's scale models of trains, and like you have a setup where like with track and trains can like run around. That is the
okay.
Like that's nowadays a very sophisticated kind of like
It's focus, right?
Yeah, this is where I did electrical engineering in college, and so like this is where my electrical engineering background, like with computers, like come in, because I like to be involved like with some of the digital and controlling stuff that you can do nowadays with that. A lot of attention to detail, and this is like where I want to bring it back to product management. There's transferable skills like between even hobbies and your day-to-day life, because no matter like what focus or domain area you have, you need to have an attention for detail when you're a product manager. So that's true in photography.
Yeah, that's
because if
true.
you're taking like pictures or something, it's not just like snapshotting like stuff, which can happen, but usually you're like, you will like ask. And that's definitely true in the model train space like as well. Yeah, like this intense kind of detailed focus to like really knows the insides and outs, I think is helpful, like to do that in your kind of other roles as well. And so there, I think there's some element on this. This was funny. In between jobs last year, I took a career coaching kind of just to kind of think about like where I am and where I kind of like wanted to go. And there was an element of some self-reflection and how do you skill sets and everything else. And yeah, one of the career coaches in that program actually made me aware of this whole kind of, once he heard about my story about like, well, your hobby stuff, what you're talking about is directly applicable to your day-to-day life. And it's like, yes, I hadn't even seen it that way, but thank you for actually like pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of very interesting to like see that kind of like a relationship. But if you're interested in this stuff, like just like, my first name, last name.com is a website that's been up for like a long, long time that has everything about model trains. And there's also somewhere a link to my Flickr feed where you'll see almost every other day or so some pictures posted from whatever I come across. That literally might be the train that I'm taking later today home or something else.
All right, I'll make sure I link it to the newsletter and podcast. Awesome. I remember we were in a meeting and then I made the comment, say, oh, really nice pond. And then you mentioned, oh, you took the picture yourself and because you're into like photography for the longest time. Yeah, that's cool. The next question is like, any tips for people who might want to transition to be a FinTech PM? So you started as a technical route, right? From engineering.
Yeah, well, I think there, like, we briefly talked about it early in the conversation already. Important to understand like the landscape, and so there are many newsletters or other forums like out there, and I would say like on LinkedIn, like I just mentioned one, and let's also link that one that I mentioned in the notes. But there's others as well. And yes, just start kind of like reading about that, kind of like learning about that, and find, like colleagues or others that are in the space, and have kind of like a conversation about like what are they, how did they get in there, and like what is your day-to-day stuff, and also be open. I mean, I think that's both as a hiring manager as well as a candidate when you're looking at kind of like in the recruiting like space. As an example. Like in 2020, I got a new role at PayPal, and I had to hire with 7 headcount because I had to build a whole new team. And I hired a few people that did not have direct payment experience, but they had e-commerce experience or adjacent like part. So, we had a bunch of payment 101 type of recorded kind of sessions like in a company. So it's like, hey, watch that stuff first, and then let's sit down, and then we'll talk about kind of like what you hear there and how much is directly applicable. But at least you understand some basic like kind of like of the kind of ecosystem. Because if you come out of e-commerce into payments, like I know that's a very natural kind of like transition because ties like to each other, which is obviously very different than if you like come out of completely kind of like different domains. But so there is there's
one thing I didn't ask, like how did you end up in the FinTech in the first place? Where you just happened?
Oh, that was pure coincidence, pure coincidence. Maybe a little bit about my journey, how I even got in the United States. On the front is related. So out of college, I joined Lucent Technologies in the Netherlands in their EMEA headquarters. And at the time, it was pretty common that you do like a 1 year plus or so kind of expat kind of visit to their US kind of like location, which was near Chicago. I did that, but I never went back. And so I ended up being in the Chicago area for like 7+ years, working there. But at the time, and my wife, at the time was there as well. And Lucent was going through this very rapid kind of collapse. So we needed to look for something else. In all honesty, she found a role at eBay and said like, hey, like that's great. And so I applied as well and got in. And so we joined eBay and moved to the Bay Area. Actually, it was eBay, but it was both part of like the PayPal. And that's how I rolled into like in the e-commerce like payments. And initially it was all on the there are some payment related like stuff, but a lot of like, as I mentioned, mobile and other consumer like things. And it was later on that I got more deeper into
payment.
But that was pure coincidental. It was just kind of like got into the, I moved like into that space. I wasn't specifically looking like for that. Last year into this year was completely different. Like PayPal, and then looking kind of like what's next. I was open to look at kind of like other places. Now the current hiring climate is pretty tough, as many people can see, and I saw a lot of companies weren't that open to hire kind of people that don't necessarily have domain kind of like experience. I had a couple of companies like Stripe and Adyen on my short list, and so was finally able to kind of like talk actually to both of them, and that's why I'm sitting here. Because I would love to be able to continue into like the payment space.
Okay, so you basically started engineering and then coincidentally joined eBay. And you mentioned like as a mobile engineer or something?
It got into the mobile group eventually. Yeah. I did one of my first kind of projects where I'm still like fond of like the time that we did, and that actually also got me very quickly out of being an IC into like management, which I never had any aspirations to, but kind of like was asked to do this was go a long time back, but Skype was at the time owned by eBay.
I did not know that. I thought owned by Microsoft.
Yeah, no, but at the time it was like so we're talking about 2007, 2008. So Skype was owned by eBay. So we built essentially payments into Skype, and to be able to actually do like person-to-person payments, as well as be able to buy your Skype minutes. Yep. Shortly thereafter, like eBay sold Skype. Shortly after, a few years later, they sold it off, and some of the stuff like disappeared. But I was in a small, they called it New Ventures group that also did mobile space. And so when the Skype kind of area ended, I moved into the mobile space. And so this also coincided with the Apple ecosystem coming up and more switch of payments into mobile. So built both mobile facing kind of like checkout solutions as well as manage the PayPal apps.
Okay.
On both Android and iOS for some time. And then I eventually transitioned to the merchant space.
Okay, that's an interesting journey. I did not know that before. Yeah. That's interesting. All right, the last question is a bonus question. So since I work at Stitch Fits, I actually got a sweater from Stitch Fits. Yeah. So the question is about what are some of your fashion preferences and why?
Hi. So I have challenges with fashion, just to be transparent about it. So I am between 6'6" and 6'7" in height. Okay, that's 2 meters, like for those of us that think metric. And so there's a lot of things here in the US that I cannot buy off the shelf. There's only a couple of things. Every time I'm going back to the Netherlands, either for personal reasons or most recently for some business reasons, shop around. I'm not really a brand person.
Agnostic.
Brand agnostic. Kind of However, outside some of the hobbies that we already talk about, we're pretty outdoorsy and hiking and everything else. So even in the weekends, even though I might just be walking around the neighborhood, I usually wear outdoor wear.
Okay.
My preferred brand on that is a Swedish brand. I think it's Fjällräven or Fjällräven, depends how you kind of properly pronounce that. And I have to buy them in the Netherlands because the length of the pants, for example, I cannot buy here. So there's a store in Santana Row, brand store, or otherwise REI or some other main things carry them here as well. But again, only for people not as tall as me. But yeah, that's an
interesting, it's not a problem, but issue to have. When you are very tall, you're limited by the size that will fit you, but most of North American size.
Yeah, and that's true also with, actually, I just did this 2 weekends ago. If you go to if you buy a shirt, usually the shirt overall fits fine, but then the arm lengths are not that great.
Okay.
And so it has a size that they also call tall, that has just slightly longer arm lengths, which is what I need. There's not far from where I live in the South Bay, there's an Eddie Bauer's outlet, and so I just walked in there and they had a few things and said, okay, I'll just take that along. But so there is fashion-wise, I'm very down to earth, you usually see me walking around with jeans or other something things in a shirt. Or in the weekends, with a mostly outdoor hiking related stuff, and then whatever fits well.
Do you have a higher return rate when you buy things online, or you don't even buy things online because they probably would not have the pants that would fit?
I don't usually. I haven't bought anything online recently. So I've been spoiled, so to speak, that in the 6 months that I've been here at Adyen, I already made many trips back to the Netherlands.
Go back home then.
I definitely went with some empty spaces in in a carry-on stroller to Amsterdam and came back with a full packed one.
Nice.
Just because I usually wear things all the way to it's no longer wearable. I'm not, I said, I'm not really trendy / fashion,
You're more sustainable fashion, right? If you like the clothes or you like the brand or fit. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think fast fashion is one thing, but people want to have all the latest style. But I'm more inclined to having some piece that can last, 10, 20 years, hopefully.
I tried I forgot what that was. One of those services that sends you a box with whatever, you have to do some questionnaire thing and yeah, I know that, but this predates you guys, a long time ago. I forgot what the name of that was. I think that was the one that eventually got acquired with Nordstrom. But
Club.
Trunk Club, there you go.
Ru mentioned she also used to.
So I tried Trunk Club once or twice, and I had to pretty much return everything.
With the questionnaire, I guess they don't.
Yeah, I just I wasn't So I liked the concept because I wanted to be challenged a little bit. Because otherwise, I would just always wear the same stuff. So that was the. Nowadays, I just take one of my girls along or so, and they will. Tell me to wear something different.
Nice. Yeah. I'm an auto ship client. So I use our own product. It also helps. We have 40% off employee discount. So I have a new box every other month. So that's a treat to myself. It's oh, okay. Let's see what's in store for me. And then there are some dresses I would probably not buy normally, but now I see, there's more versatile pieces. So that's not interesting. But yeah, it's good.
I should actually check on sizing availability. Yeah, occasional surprise, doing something completely different. But yeah, my track record hasn't been great on that front. And it's also not something that is top of mind. If I need to, I'd rather think about
other things.
Trains or Well, trains like most of my free time, especially in the weekends, deals also with shuttling my younger one around. And yesterday I combined that with I just like dropped her off at like where she does her sports, and I looked at the clock and it's like, hey, if I go there, I can take a picture, and I just did that.
Okay.
And then I could have gone home straight, but like
so
there's a combination of like, hey, I'm on the road anyway. Yeah.
I think that's nice. I guess when the kids are older, you don't have to be there whenever they have some activities. Versus when I take my son to swimming, or earlier this year, you have to be in the water with them. So that's
like I know, like
it's
when
not
you're
self-sustained.
when you have high schoolers, you pass that stage. But I totally remember the time that you're talking about. Like there used to be a day, like a time and day, where every Saturday morning started like by going to the YMCA in San Jose and having swim lessons, like where I was in the water as well. But we're talking a long time ago. Cherish that moment, by the way. Like you have fun memories in the future.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you so much, Loke. I learned a lot.
Thank you.